This is largely a review of material from grade 10. I just want to go through it. I think it's helpful to rethink it and revisit it. First of all, let's look at these examples. Solve x squared equals 4. There are two solutions. This is an important thing to keep in mind. Quadratic equations normally will have two solutions because when you take the square root of a number, there's a plus and a minus answer. So the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. Thinking of it in reverse, 2 squared is 4, negative 2 squared is also 4. Carrying on down, you can see that you can build that into a slightly more complicated equation until, if we look at number 4 here, just watch how this has been solved. There's the equation, divide by 2, you get x plus 1 squared equals 4, and then again, because of the square root having a positive and a negative answer, x plus 1 equals 2, and x plus 1 equals negative 2. To give you the solutions, x equals 1 and x equals negative 3. In general, there's 4 ways of solving a quadratic equation, but I think there are some that will be a lot preferable to others. One is completing the square, one is using a graphing calculator, one is factoring, and the fourth is quadratic formula. I'm going to do the second one first, graphing calculator. If you look at this example here, that equation 2x squared minus 12x minus 14 equals 0. On a graphing calculator, all you're really doing is finding the x-intercepts of the function y equals 2x squared minus 12x minus 14. So you graph it, you find the intercepts, and that will be correct. It's not always easy to be precise. Here we got nice whole numbers, negative 1 and 7, but it won't always be that way. So it's not the most reliable method, but it is a method. Second method is completing the square. This is probably the most complicated, but it is good from a pure math standpoint. If you take the question again, factor out a 2, common factor of 2 from each term there, and because that's equal to 0, you can divide both sides by 2, and the 2 disappears. Now you've got x squared minus 6x minus 7 equals 0. Completing the square, you leave the minus 7 alone on the outside, and you take half of negative 6 is negative 3, square it is 9. So you can add 9 there, and then subtract 9 on the outside. You can then factor this perfect square down to x minus 3 squared, and the negative 7 minus 9 becomes negative 16, and now it's just like the previous screen. You solve that, put 16 on the right, take the square root, gives you a plus 4 and a minus 4 on the right side, and you solve it down to x equals 7, x equals negative 1. Same answer, slightly more complicated way of doing things. Third method, factoring. I strongly recommend this if it's an easy one to factor. If it's not, don't go too far down that road. There's better ways. Factor out a common factor of 2, x squared minus 6x minus 7, factors down to x plus 1, x minus 7 equals 0. This means that either the left bracket equals 0 or the right bracket equals 0. So you solve those, same answer. And when all else fails, the quadratic formula, no matter how complicated the answer, is a reliable way of solving it. I know everyone's comfortable with that and familiar with that. So my recommendation is, graphically is not always that reliable. Completing the square is mathematically pure, but maybe the most complicated. Factoring is a very good method if it's an easy one to factor, and quadratic formula is the one to fall back on in other instances.